Stephen Miller believed he had Jasmine Crockett cornered in front of the entire nation until she smiled and said one quiet line, and suddenly, the whole room understood she already knew something about him. He hoped no one would ever find out. The hearing was already intense as always. Stephen Miller showed up with rolled-up sleeves and a sharp voice, tossing out policy talk like it was ammunition. His goal that day was clear: go after Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, box her in, throw her off. But she never flinched. She leaned forward slightly, pen between her fingers, eyes steady on Miller. He was halfway through a sentence, something cocky about border numbers. When she did it, she smiled, not a big smile, just a quiet one, a slow, knowing curve at the corner of her mouth, like someone who had already read the ending and was just waiting for others to catch up. C-SPAN's live stream caught it. Social media would replay it for hours, but the meaning behind that smile, that was still unknown. Miller noticed it. His voice shifted, not much, but just enough. He stumbled on a figure glanced toward the aides behind him. One shifted in his chair, another glanced at her. Phony there in the room felt different now. The pressure wasn't just political anymore, it got personal. Jasmine stayed quiet. She didn't need to say anything. Her silence said everything her words could have. Her posture asked, "Are you sure you want to take this further?" Miller pressed ahead, trying to stay on track. He went after her votes, questioned her stance on immigration, trying to pull her into a shouting match, but she stayed calm, her hand resting loosely on the table, gaze fixed, that same quiet smile holding steady beamed. Her aides exchanged glances. One of them, Miles, a young staffer, was already watching a Twitter thread take off Elon and Miller's wife blurry images from an Austin event just 5 days earlier. Jasmine had seen them too. She had seen the originals before they were ever posted. One of the event donors, her college roommate, she knew the pictures were real. The whispers, not whispers. Anna Moresso, while Miller threw jabs, Jasmine just listened, not really to his words, but to the fact that he had no idea what was coming. The man trying to discredit her on live TV. He was just days from his own storm. Congresswoman Crockett, would you like to respond? The chair asked. She tilted her head a bit. To which part? She said, her voice steady, calm, in control. Miller jumped in, too eager, to the part where your policies have failed the American people. Congresswoman, her smile widened slightly, you are going to have to be more specific. For a moment, something shifted in his expression. He collar looked a little snug. His eyes darted not at her, but to the press bench and their phones. Jasmine looked down, turned a page in her notes, and said nothing more. At that point, she held all the power because she already knew. She knew the chatter growing louder in DC. She knew about the images. She knew about the upcoming leak from a gossip reporter in Los Angeles, even knew from a contact at Meta that someone had tried unsuccessfully to wipe those photos off the internet. And Stephen Miller, he had no clue the ground was slipping beneath him. But Jasmine had no intention of outing him, not yet. She didn't need to hit hard. She just had to wait. That smirk, it was the quiet warning. The hearing carried on. Her mix stayed mostly off, but for those paying attention, the journalists, the staffers, the insiders, the change was obvious. Something big was on the horizon, but the headlines? They hadn't caught up yet. Because 5 days before that hearing, Jasmine Crockett sat in the back corner at Busboys and Poets in DC, sipping iced tea, scrolling through emails on her tablet. It was late, almost closing time. She liked it. No lobbyists, no reporters, just her, a half-eaten hummus plate, and the sound of chairs being stacked. Then her phone buzzed. It was Ayanna Blackwell, her college friend, now a venture capitalist in Austin. The message was brief. Girl, you will not believe who I just saw Elon with, and it is not who you think. Jasmine raised an eyebrow, replied, I'm listening. 1 minute later, 2 blurry photos Aravid taken from a distance, likely from a rooftop. Elon Musk was there standing beside a woman whose back was to the camera, but Jasmine recognized the silhouette instantly. Brynwe Lang, Stephen Miller's wife, and not just standing near him, leaning close in a way that said more than words, and hand resting gently on his wrist as he spoke. Jasmine blinked. She hadn't talked to Bronwyn in years. They had only briefly crossed paths before Bronwyn entered the political spotlight, but Jasmine had always found her calculatic, smart, but never reckless. And this was calculated. Where were Those taken? Jasmine asked. Ayanna laughed. Private rooftop SpaceX donor event. N01 under a $5 million contribution made it through the door. I only got in because of my firm. Was anyone else there? Jasmine asked. Plenty, Ayanna said. Celebs, tech folks, even some retired senators. And people definitely noticed them. Jazz. They were not hiding, not even a little. I am surprised. It hasn't hit the media yet, Jasmine said after a pause. Did you send these to anyone else? No, just you. I figured you would know what to do with them. Jasmine did know. She did not rush. She did not panic. She did not even forward the images. Instead, she opened a fresh note and began typing named people who would care. People who would pretend they did not care, but would pass it along to 5 others anyway. A political writer at The Hill she trusted. A podcaster who had once interned for her, a legal analyst at MSNBC, and a low-level but sharp staffer, underpaid and always online, who worked just 2 floors above in Rayburn. No threats, no games, just quiet messages, subtle hints. Hey, heard anything strange about Bronwyn Lang lately? Think Elon's seeing someone? Heard something odd out of Austin. By the next evening, the whispers had traction. By day 3, they were running. One gossip account on Instagram posted a vague blind item, a tech billionaire and a political spouse seen getting close at an exclusive event in Texas. She is married. He is not for now. The guessing started. Guesses became suspicions. Suspicions became screenshots. Meanwhile, Stephen Miller had no clue. He was focused on preparing for his big moment with Jasmine. He had been meeting with his team for days, studying her past interviews, preparing sharp lines. He believed he had her figured out, thought he could rattle her. What he did not know was that people were already talking behind his back. And Jasmine? She stayed cool. She went to meetings. She sat on panels. She answered questions about voting laws, not about personal lives. She never tweeted anything out of line because she didn't need to fuel anything. The fire was already building. That night, back at her apartment on Capitol Hill, windows open, laptop lit up, Jasmine scrolled through early Reddit threads. She watched someone on TikTok stitch a blurry version of Ayanna's photo with the caption, "Is that Elon Musk with Stephen Miller's wife?" Jasmine smiled faintly. This was not just tabloid material, it was leverage. Not to ruin anyone, but to let hypocrisy do what it does. She did not start this mess. She was not going to clean it up either, but she would make sure the right people understood the moment. But background only matters if it leads somewhere, and the next public appearance was already locked in. Even before the gossip, before the photos, the tension between Jasmine Crockett and Stephen Miller had been simmering for a long time. Anyone who followed politics closely had noticed it building. They were not just divided by politics. They were total opposites, even in how they used a microphone. Jasmine was direct, sharp, and clear. She did not soften anything. When she spoke, people listened. Whether they agreed or not, they paid attention. Miller was different. He played strategy. Everything he said was calculated. Nothing came out by accident. His reputation came from backroom planning and cold, pointed arguments. Some respected it. Others saw it as cruelty hidden behind charts. Their first real confrontation happened during a televised forum on immigration 3 years ago in Phoenix. It was supposed to be a balanced panel, but it quickly broke down. Miller pushed for strict border enforcement and claimed it was the humane choice. Jasmine called it out clearly. "This is not solving a problem," she said. "It's turning pain into profit." That moment went viral. Miller hated being challenged in public, especially by someone who was not afraid of his resume or his TIs. That day started everything. From then on, they clashed across interviews, social media, and hearings. Miller mocked her experience as a defense lawyer. She pointed to the human cost of the policies he supported. Their conflict was not for show, it was real. Later, when Miller joined a right-wing lobbying firm, Jasmine's office suddenly started getting late-night email requests, asking for documents she had already submitted to committees. He made a habit of being present at events she was speaking at, not always to debate, sometimes just to observe, like he was analyzing her every move. She had noticed it during a donor retreat in Santa Barbara last fall. Jasmine had been delivering a keynote on equitable federal infrastructure investment. Miller was in the second row. He did not clap, and she did not look his way, but afterward, he lingered by the exit, long enough to catch her eye. He did not speak, just gave her a smirk, the kind of silent gesture people like him use to send a message, "I am still watching." Jasmine was not shaken, but she never underestimated him. On the flight home, she told her aide, "Miles, he is not the type to strike first. He waits until you drop your guard." That is why the hearing held so much weight. It was not just another back and forth over legislation. It was a clash years in the making that had finally caught fire. When Miller's name appeared on the Judiciary Committee's special hearing list that week, Jasmine's team noticed it right away. Miles looked up from his laptop. "He's back planning to press you on asylum timelines." Jasmine showed no reaction. "Let him. Want to prepare anything?" Miles asked. "Nothing," she replied. "I have been ready." But privately, she had one request. She asked Miles to pull Miller's recent personal schedule. She did not say why. 3 days later, Miles handed her a folder. "You will want to see this. Inside travel records, speaking events but one unusual entry stood out. Austin, Texas, April 14th. Labeled as a private vacation, but it was not Miller's travel that mattered, it was his wife's. Bronwyn had flown in from Los Angeles that same day, and according to someone Miles knew from law school, she did not leave with him. Jasmine said nothing when she read it. She just shut the folder, leaned back, and said, "People always reveal themselves." So by the time the hearing came, Jasmine already understood what lay beneath the surface. She remembered Phoenix. She remembered Santa Barbara. She remembered every quiet insult, every late-night email, every calculated glance, and the silence that always followed. That is why when Miller sat across from her, with his confident tone and carefully crafted points, she was already ahead. Still, even with all the history, it was the current moment that would make headlines. It was not meant to be secret, just private. A rooftop gala at the Lauren Hotel in Austin. SpaceX had held events there before, but this one was different. Fewer guests, no press. And no cameras. Just top contributors and a few selected political figures. Elon Musk stood under the string lights, holding a drink, greeting people. The invitations were informal phone calls, personal asks. If your name was not in Elon's mental list, you did not make the guest list. Bronwyn Lang arrived around 7:30 p.m. She wore a navy silk dress, simple jewelry, precise heels. She came alone. No partner, no security. Elon met her by the bar. No greetings, no gestures. Just a glance that made it clear they were already on the same page. To some, she looked like just another guest. But anyone familiar with Washington circles raised their eyebrows. Ayanna Blackwell spotted them quickly. She was there on behalf of her investment firm, chatting with Tesla engineers, casually talking AI markets, but she was not the kind to miss a developing situation. She saw Elon lean in, saw Bronwyn laugh, not a polite laugh, but something more personal, a kind of ease you only have when there is history. Ayanna did not need to do research. She pulled out her phone, angled it down, and took 2 fast photos. She already knew where to send them. What she had not expected was how soon it would all come into play, because the next morning, Elon had a meeting on Capitol Hill about tax incentives for green energy. One of the lawmakers attending, Jasmine Crockett, they passed each other in the hallway. Elon gave a polite nod. Jasmine did not return it. Later that day, she handed her phone to Miles. "Save these. They're going to be useful soon," she did not explain. Meanwhile, whispers from the gala had started traveling. Someone from the mayor's office in Austin texted a friend in DC, "People are saying Elon is dating someone married." Like, really married? The reply came quick. Lang. Within 2 hours, a screenshot landed in a group chat of DC journalists who claimed not to share rumors. 2 hours later, a former White House staffer messaged Ayanna directly. Just one word, "Seriously?" She left it unanswered. That same night, a draft story was sitting in Political Playbook's publishing queue waiting to be confirmed. No names, just the basics. A tech billionaire seen getting close with a political spousey at a closed-door event. Bronwyn stayed silent. She had not posted publicly since January. Her Instagram was private, her Twitter account inactive. But silence only made the chatter louder. Miller, on the other hand, had disappeared from the public entirely. He had spent the week preparing for the hearing, going over Jasmine's voting records, watching her past speeches, working with a media advisor to polish his delivery. His strategy was to catch her off guard, make her seem unprepared, too reactive. What he did not know was that a storm of gossip was already taking shape, and Jasmine had chosen not to tell him. Not yet. The morning of the hearing, her phone lit up with a message from a journalist at the Daily Beast. "Can we talk off the record? I've got 2 sources confirming the Musk-Lang story." And when she saw the message, "Want to make sure we're not crossing into anything sensitive," she ignored it. This wasn't about payback. It was about pacing, timing, letting arrogance reveal itself. She understood Miller well enough to know would go too far, say one thing too many, and the gap between how sure he looked and how unaware he really was would tell more than any headline could. So when she smiled at him during the hearing, when the corners of her mouth shifted just slightly, it was not meant to insult. It was a tactic. She did not need to embarrass him. Reality was already handling that. But often, when a story is breaking, the person at the center does not realize it is about them. By the time the hearing room filled that morning, Jasmine Crockett already knew how it would unfold. Her notes set neatly in front of her. Though she wouldn't need them, she did not plan to speak much. This wasn't her moment, it was his. And Stephen Miller never passed on the spotlight. He entered the room with confidence, chin high, jacket sharp, like it was a debate stage, not a hearing. His team followed close behind, young, tense, clearly on edge. From her seat in the second row, Jasmine watched. She didn't react, didn't move, just observed. Miller was ready to deliver a performance, but what he didn't know was that everything around him was already unstable. Jasmine wasn't holding a weapon, she held a pen, and all she had to do was wait to use it. The chairman started with formal notes. Miller would get 7 minutes to question the panel, specifically Congresswoman Crockett, about delays in federal immigration. Jasmine adjusted her microphone slowly. Miller opened with a forced friendliness. "Congresswoman Crockett, thank you for being here. I assume you're ready to discuss the cost of the border crisis." She looked directly at him. Always. Her voice was calm, steady, nothing showy, but the tension was instantly felt. Miller leaned in. "Last year, you backed a bill that redirected ICE funding to local shelters. Can you explain how that supports national security?" Jasmine gave a slight nod. "Sure, but maybe the better question is how locking up kids in for-profit facilities helped." Soft laugh stirred near the press row. Not loud, but enough to get under his skin. Miller's nostrils flared. "So you think reducing enforcement funding improves safety?" he asked. "I think compassion is one form of safety," she replied. "But I'm sure you see it differently." Her tone never rose. She remained collected, yet somehow, she controlled every second. She could see its staffers whispering, screens lighting up. The story was moving fast. A new tweet had just gone live. Confirmed Bronwyn Lang spotted entering Elon Musk's Austin home 2 nights after the gala. Alone, Jasmine did not need to mention it. She just needed Miller to feel it. He pressed again. "Congresswoman, is it compassion to allow open borders that result in trafficking and abuse?" This was his pattern: paint her as unrealistic, careless, weak on crime. He wanted her off balance. Jasmine gave another quiet smile. "Stephen," she said, using his first name on purpose, "do you really want to talk about exploited women right now?" The pause that followed was short but thick. Miller blinked. Someone shifted in the front row. He forced a laugh. "I think you're avoiding the issue." "No," Jasmine said, composed. "I think I am being direct. You just don't like where it's going." Miller's jaw tightened. His reply came out uneven. "You think this is funny?" And then she did it. She laughed. Not loudly, not mockingly, just a soft, clear laugh under her breath. "Actually," she said, "I think hypocrisy is always funny, especially when it pretends to be moral outrage." Later, People would say that was the moment things changed, because Miller lost his footing. He tried to pivot, fumbled through a quote, mispronounced the name of his source. But it did not matter what came next. The room had already moved on. And Jasmine? She simply leaned back, folded her hands, and let him finish. Within the hour, the video would be clipped. A hot mic would pick up that exact laugh. Commentators would analyze it. Twitter would go wild. TikTok creators would remix it, calling it the laugh that shook Capitol Hill. But before any of that happened inside that room, people already sensed it. The power had shifted. And sometimes, power isn't in how loud you speak. It's about when you choose to speak. But what followed after the hearing would make everything before it seem like a preview. It started before Jasmine even left the building. A 6-second soundbite, well-timed. Silence. Then that quiet laugh was already clipped and posted by a reporter seated 2 rows behind her. No caption. Just a timestamp and the words, "Watch this exchange closely." By the time she stepped into the marble hallway outside the hearing room, her phone would not stop buzzing. Message after message. Miles was one step behind her, refreshing Twitter on his tablet. "You're trending," he said under his breath. Jasmine kept walking. "Let me guess, the laugh?" He nodded. "That and a few other things." Outside, a couple of reporters tried to grab a comment, one from CNN, one from Rolling Stone. She gave a polite wave. No comment today, but the story didn't need her input. It was already moving fast. By mid-afternoon, the clip had hit 3 million views across platforms. A former Dodge official reposted it, captioned, "Poise is knowing when to speak and when to just smile." Cable news ran it by sundown. MSNBC aired the hearing footage, cutting to a split screen of Elon Musk speaking at a press event in Boca Chica that same day. The segment was titled, "Collision of Power, Politics, and Infidelity." On Reddit, someone posted an old photo of Bronwyn Lang and Elon Musk from a charity event in DC last year. No contact, just standing close. But the internet loves a timeline. Meanwhile, on TikTok, creators paired Jasmine's laugh with trending sounds. One used a Kill Bill clip with the dramatic zoom in. Another added on-screen text, "When you already know the story and your enemy walks straight into it." But it wasn't just online. By dinner, it was full mainstream news. Breaking. Multiple sources confirm Elon Musk's connection with Bronwyn Lang, wife of political strategist Stephen Miller. Photos and video from private events over the past month were included. The Daily Beast broke it. Politico followed. Then TMZ. Miller made no statement. Neither did Bronwyn. Elon Musk tweeted simply, "Life is stranger than fiction." Over 80,000 retweets in 3 hours. Inside Jasmine's office, the energy was calm but charged. Miles paced near the window. "Do you think he'll step down from the advisory board?" Jasmine sipped her tea. "He might try to fake his way through. Should we get in front of it?" "No," she leaned back. "We don't need to say a word. He's doing this to himself." Miles looked over. "You didn't plan this?" "I didn't leak it," she said. "But I'm not shocked it came out." Then she smiled again, the same way she had during the hearing. Because the truth was, power in Washington rarely falls all at once. It wears down slowly, until one well-placed moment cracks it wide open. The calls started that night. Colleagues congratulated her without saying it directly. Class act handled that hearing with grace. That moment was surgical. She said thank you knowing exactly what they meant. Even the critics went quiet. Conservative pundits tiptoed around the scandal, trying to steer the discussion back to policy, but there was no room left. No one was talking about immigration anymore. They were talking about public image, about betrayal, about the way Miller's face changed when Jasmine asked, "Do you really want to talk about exploited women today?" It wasn't just a clip. It was a mirror, and he couldn't look away. But as the news cycle kept spinning, there was one detail no one outside her office knew. Jasmine had not only seen this coming, she had quietly prepared for what would come after. That night, Stephen Miller skipped his scheduled Fox News appearance. That alone raised eyebrows. He was supposed to speak about border enforcement, a topic he usually embraced, but producers got a call just an hour before airtime. Personal emergency. No other explanation. Privately, someone on his team admitted he was dealing with private matters, which meant damage control, because the Musk-Lang story was still everywhere, not just in political media on morning shows, late-night comedy, business blogs, even gossip YouTubers. Bronwyn said nothing. She disappeared both publicly and physically. Reporters stationed outside her D.C. townhouse got no response. One neighbor claimed they saw her flying out of Dallas to San Francisco alone. Miller's silence, meanwhile, said a lot. He didn't deny anything, didn't push back on a single report. Instead, he shut down. An aide described it as internal lockdown, no emails, no calls. His team didn't even know what to do next. While he stalled, Jasmine kept going. She met with housing leaders, gave a few local interviews about business grants, appeared on a podcast about storytelling and politics. Not once did she bring up the scandal, but every interviewer brought it up somehow. Congresswoman, how do you stay grounded when everything around you gets noisy? She smiled. Staying focused helps. I've got real work to do. That was enough. She didn't need to add anything else, because Miller's career, it was coming apart. Within 48 hours, the advisory group he worked with quietly pulled his name off their site. A formal message followed. We are reviewing all staffing decisions in light of recent news. No names mentioned, but no one was confused. Even his supporters started to back away. One conservative foundation that had partnered with his think tank put out a vague statement about realigning priorities. From his desk, Miles followed. It all part surprised, part satisfied. He really thought he was untouchable, he muttered. Jasmine didn't look up. He built his image like it was armor. Cold, untouchable. The problem is, things like that don't bend, they break. By Thursday, a long-form article was published in The Atlantic. It did not hold back. The title was direct, The Fall of Stephen Miller, a cautionary tale in ego and avoidance. It went over his rise, his methods, and his mistakes. It explained that the affair was not what ended things for him. It was how he reacted, his pride, his silence, and his failure to adapt. Jasmine was only mentioned once near the end. At the hearing, Crockett remained composed. Her quick and scripted smirk became a sign of control in a room filled with tension. She was never meant to be the focus, and that was the point. This was not payback. It was not a takedown. It was the outcome of trying to direct a story that no longer belonged to you. Later that week, a small group of young women working in public policy sent Jasmine a letter. It was handwritten. Miles opened it first. We watched you during that hearing. We noticed what you did not say, and we have never felt more understood. She kept the note in her desk not because it praised her, but because it reminded her what truly mattered. Whether Miller recovered or not was uncertain. Maybe the scandal would follow him for years. Maybe Bronwyn would speak out someday, or maybe she would disappear from politics altogether. It made no difference to Jasmine. She was never defined by the scandal. She had not leaked anything. She had not released photos. She had not made the first move. She simply let the truth unfold on its own. But before the week ended, Jasmine took one final meeting, one that surprised everyone, even Miles, and it would shift everything. Late Friday afternoon, Jasmine's scheduler, a quiet woman named Evie, tapped on her office door. There's a request for a meeting, she said, holding a folded note. It came through personal lines, not the official route. Jasmine put down her pen. Who is it from? Evie paused. Elon Musk. Jasmine leaned back slightly. Here, in DC, Evie nodded. He's flying in. Said he'll be at the rooftop bar at the Conrad Hotel. No security, no press. He just wants to talk. You're the only person he asked for. Jasmine stared at the note in Evie's hand for a few seconds. Then she stood. Clear my schedule. She arrived just after 6:45, wearing a charcoal gray pantsuit. No aides, no cameras. The rooftop was quiet. A few people sat with drinks, watching the sunset behind government buildings. Elon was seated at the far end of the bar, drinking what looked like ginger ale over ice. When he spotted her, he stood up. Congresswoman, Mr. Musk. She did not smile, but she was not cold either. Didn't expect to be on your guest list, she said. He motioned to the open chair across from him. I figured I owed you some background. She sat down, crossing one leg over the other. Go ahead. He took a moment. This situation with Bronwyn, it did not begin how it appears. She reached out to discuss tech policy back in January, quietly. It was never meant to be anything beyond that. Jasmine tilted her head. And yet, here we are. I did not plan to cause this much trouble, he said. But I know I did. He paused. I am not here to excuse it. I understand how it looks. I just thought with the fallout landing, where it did you might value hearing the truth. She gave a short laugh. Not like the one from the hearing, this one had no humor. You are not worried about me, she said. You are worried about him. Elon did not argue. I didn't leak anything, she added. I didn't have to. You do not play chess with someone like Miller by trying to force the game. You let him make the wrong move himself. I figured that, he replied. They sat quietly for a moment. Below DC, traffic moved slowly, like nothing significant had just happened all week. Then Jasmine asked, so, why tell me this now? Because I think you're going to play a larger role than you expect, he said. People saw how you handled yourself in that room. The fact that you did not strike back, it meant something. She looked at him. Is this supposed to be your version of a compliment? No, he said. It is my version of pragmatism, Elon said. And maybe out of respect. That word respect lingered longer than the rest. You think this ends with a scandal and some bad headlines? Jasmine asked. Steven is not your problem. People like him don't just vanish, they change their appearance. I know, Elon replied, but he won't return the same. Jasmine leaned forward slightly. You still don't get it. He never had real power. He borrowed it from fear, from appearances, from people staying quiet. That is why one small truth shook him so badly. Elon gave a slow nod. Then maybe we just helped him face something he was avoiding. Jasmine finished her water and stood up. I did not come here looking for closure, she said, and I am not concerned with what happens to him, but if you are planning to back anyone in the next election, make sure it's someone who does not panic when the truth shows up or laugh when others do. He gave her a small, respectful nod. Fair. She walked off without offering a handshake. Miles was waiting downstairs in the car. How did it go? He asked. Informative, she replied. Anything change? No, she said. Not for me. But that evening, when she sat on her couch with the city humming beyond her window, Elon's words echoed back. You are going to have a bigger role than you think. Maybe, maybe not. But she understood this much truth, when handled with patience, can unseat the powerful, and often, the quietest conversations leave the deepest marks. Monday arrived with no press release, no interviews, no leaked audio. Only silence from both Stephen Miller and Jasmine Crockett. She returned to work, reviewing policy drafts as if nothing had happened. Her team wanted to celebrate. They had seen the view counts, the retweets, the praise pouring into her inbox. But Jasmine stopped it quickly. This was not a victory, she told them. It was a warning. Miles looked puzzled. A warning to who? To anyone who thinks appearances are stronger than principle. Still, she felt the shift. Colleagues who had once kept their distance now found reasons to linger outside her door. A senator who had previously claimed she was too emotional for committee duty sent a handwritten note. Elegant composure last week. It read, "We need more of that in this building." She did not keep the note. She had no interest in respect that only appeared when it was safe to offer. The lesson was simpler. Real power is never about who speaks the loudest. It belongs to those who observe, who wait, and who understand the room. Before saying anything, Stephen Miller had built his image through sharp language, pointed accusations, and rehearsed confrontations. He thrived in conflict when others panicked, overreacted, or lost control. But Jasmine did not panic. She did not defend herself. She did not respond with anger, and because of that, none of his tactics landed. Every accusation fell flat. Every attempt to provoke her bounced off a wall of calm focus. Jasmine had learned long ago that not all fights are won with pressure. Many are lost through arrogance. Let someone talk long enough, and they will eventually say more than they meant to. Like when Miller tried to pin her on human rights without realizing the nation was about to examine his own, or when he accused her of using compassion for political gain while his personal Life was about to become public knowledge. That was the key difference. He chased headlines. She embraced silence. Even now, Jasmine did not feel proud, not the way people assumed. She felt balanced, grounded. She had known exactly who she was before that hearing, and she still knew it after, and none of the trending hashtags changed that. Later that day, she met with students, a charter school class from Baltimore visiting DC for a civics program. One girl, maybe 13 or 14, nervously raised her hand. "How do you stay calm when people are rude to you on TV?" Jasmine gave her a soft smile. "Because I do not measure myself by how they react. I measure myself by what I meant to do. If I stand on truth, I have already won, even if it does not look like it right away." The girl nodded and scribbled that into her notebook. That was the part few people ever mentioned: the imprint power leaves behind. Not the media coverage, not the applause, but the quiet watchers, choosing how they would carry themselves after seeing how you held your ground. This was never just about Miller or Bronwyn or Elon. It was about what people noticed. When everything else cracked, they saw calm, poise, planning, control, and maybe change something in how they viewed women like her. Black women in leadership, women who did not compete with the noise, but instead built something real beneath it. She personally walked the students out, shaking each of their hands, meeting every eye. Miles caught up afterward. "You know you didn't have to do that." "I know," she said. "But that's the work." She paused, then added, "And I would rather be remembered for how I stood, not for how someone else felt." But one more message still needed to be delivered, this time for everyone watching online. The clip did not just trend, it stayed. A week later, it was still being reshared with new captions. Teachers used it in civics debates. Commentators broke it down as an example of modern public presence, and especially among younger women, Black women. It kept circulating with the same simple phrase: This is how you carry power." Jasmine never publicly addressed the scandal. She never said if she knew about the affair beforehand. She never mentioned Bronwyn or Elon by name. She did not have to. Her silence was not avoidance. It was control. Her restraint spoke louder than any press release, and it left people wondering, which only deepened their respect. One evening, alone in her apartment, she rewatched the video, not for praise, not for the buzz, but to pay attention to one detail: her laugh. It was shorter than she remembered, barely there, but it said everything. That she understood what was happening, that she did not need to raise her voice, that she did not have to win the exchange because she had already kept the power. She shut the laptop and let herself feel something she had kept at bay all week: pride. Not about how it ended, but about how she showed up. Because in a place where everyone rushes to get the last word, she reminded people sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to say nothing. This was never just about Stephen Miller. It was about what people witnessed when honesty sat across from ego, when pride cracked under weight, when power was not about force but about staying firm. And for every woman who has ever been cut off, underestimated, or spoken over, Jasmine Crockett's laugh became a symbol, not of mockery but of knowing. A quiet line drawn, a moment that said, "I see you, and I do not owe you an explanation." That kind of self-trust cannot be taught in lectures. It cannot be planned in press rooms. It is lived, built, usually shaped by fire, and once you have it, nobody can fake it the way you can live it. So here is the takeaway, one you will want to hold on to. Sometimes the most powerful thing in the room is staying calm while others fall apart. That is not silence. That is control. That is growth. That is what actual leadership looks like. And if this story left you with something, anything, let it be this: you do not need to raise your voice to be heard. You do not need to fight to be valued. And you never, ever have to stoop low to prove anything. Because when your truth is steady and your presence grounded, people pay attention, even when you are not asking to be seen. If stories like this speak to you, if you want more honest, clear insights about how power works and how people move forward without the noise, subscribe to this channel, share the video, and keep showing up in your own life with focus, not distraction. Until next time, watch closely, because character always shows itself sooner or later.